Good morning to you all. Our lesson for today is on the topic living things and non-living things. These are some keywords in the lesson. Living things, non-living things, reproduction, photosynthesis, stomata, carbon dioxide, oxygen. Take a look around your environment. There are so many things in our environment. There are human beings, trees, animals, buildings, houses, hospitals, cars. What other things do you see in the environment? All the things we see around us can be put into two groups. These are living things and non-living things. Living things are things that have life in them. Examples of living things are human beings, plants, and animals. So as you can see on your screen, you have pictures of some living things over there, some animals over there. You can see a lion, a frog, an eagle. All of these animals are living things because they have life in them. We human beings, we are also living things because we have life in us, as well as plants. Plants are also living things because they also have life in them. Non-living things, on the other hand, are things that do not have life in them as compared to living things. A typical example is are stones, tables, rubber, glasses, water, sand, cars. You have buildings, you have roads. They are all non-living things because they do not have life in them. Plants and animals can do certain things to show that they are living things. Examples: living things can grow, living things can move on their own, living things can reproduce, living things can eat, and living things can breathe. Characteristics of living things: plants and animals can do certain things to show that they are living things, and that's what we refer to as characteristics of living things. Plants and animals can do certain things to show that they are living things. Example: living things can grow. Yes, human beings grow, animals grow, as well as plants, they also grow. A typical example is a plant. When we plant a seed in the soil, it germinates into seedlings. After some time, the seedlings also grow into young plants. The young plants also grow to become big plants. So that is a typical example of how plants grow, which shows that, of course, all living things grow. Living things move on their own, or they can move on their own. Living things like animals, they move in different ways. Animals use different parts of their bodies to move. Some animals, such as lions, use their limbs to walk or run, just like we human beings who are also who are also living things. We also move around by walking from one place to another. Fishes use their fins to swim in water. Birds use their wings to fly in the air. Other animals also move by crawling, galloping, or by hopping. So, of course, any living organ or anything that can move on their own is a living thing. So, the movement is also a characteristic of every living thing. Living things can reproduce. Every living thing produces their young ones. The process by which living things reproduce their young ones is what we refer to here as reproduction, or we say living things can reproduce. A typical example is plants. Let's take, for example, plants. Some plants reproduce their young ones from seeds. These seeds are found in the fruits of the plant. So plants that produce their baby plants from seeds. A typical example is a maize plant, tomato plant, orange plant, beans plant, name them. Some plants also reproduce or they produce their young ones from their stem. A typical example is cassava plant, sugarcane plant, and ginger plant. That is how they produce their young ones. Animals also, as living things, also reproduce. Yes, like plants, animals also reproduce. Animals, they are living things that can make their own babies. The, and that is also referred to as what? Reproduction. Some animals their own babies by laying eggs. Other animals make their own babies by giving birth to them. So that is how, or the ways by which living things reproduce. Also, living things eat. Yes, all animals, including we human beings, will eat food to grow. Animals feed on both plants and other animals. Animals also get energy from the food that they eat. Unlike animals and human beings, plants also have their way of eating. We will discuss that in the next lesson. Now, living things do breathe. All living things need air to survive, or they breathe in air to survive. Animals and human beings have what we call lungs that help them to breathe. Breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. What about plants? Yes, plants have tiny holes in their leaves, and these tiny holes is what we call stomata. The stomata helps the plants to breathe by taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen. So living things breathe, yes, but let's take note that animals and human beings, we breathe in oxygen through our lungs so that we can survive. But plants, they take in carbon dioxide through the stomata. These are some few characteristics of living things that we will talk about today.